the Shark Deck.
Oh man, I just did something. I'm so excited about it. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your Daily Comedy News. If you've been listening this week, you know I've gotten obsessed with the AI chatbot writing some jokes. So I asked it to write some Mitch Hedberg-style jokes, and all it did was give me back actual Mitch Hedberg jokes. So then I'm like, all right, write some Mitch Hedberg-style jokes about helicopters. Wow, these are pretty good. So let me bust out my half-ass Mitch that I haven't done in a while. Here we go. A helicopter's like a flying staircase, but it's much more thrilling. Helicopters are like giant bumblebees, but with much more attitude. I used to have a fear of helicopters, then I realized, what's the worst that could happen? They crash. That's just like falling with style. And here's one that's really just doing a cover version of a Mitch joke, but helicopters are like elevators, but with blades. They can take you up, down, or spin you around. All right, that's ridiculous. Love the chatbot. The Grammys are tonight. Your host is Trevor Noah. He says, I have a lot of free time these days. That's part of it. He told the Hollywood Reporter. Moments that you have backstage with the performers. You're just walking around, you're seeing Billie Eilish, and she's having a moment with another artist. You don't get to see that anywhere else, and you don't get to experience that level of joy. For me to be part of that is truly, I guess now it's 3 times a lifetime opportunity. I never take it for granted because all these people are the soundtracks to our lives. He's very excited for Beyonce, the most decorated woman in Grammy history. She's nominated for 9 Grammys at tonight's show, Trevor said. I can think of few artists who are more deserving of holding that title in that position, and without disrespecting any of the previous holders of that title in any way, it's safe to say that Beyonce has truly done more than many to shape not just the music, but pop culture, the perception of black women, black people in general, connecting the diaspora in the way that she creates her music, defining dance moves. I mean, she's left an indelible impression. Oftentimes, people have amazing influences on music or on culture, and then we'll say, oh, it would have been great if they were celebrated. It's wonderful that Beyonce gets her flowers. Well said. Trevor told CBS, the nerves come in because you're standing in front of not just some of the best, but some of the biggest performers in the world. Nerves are part of what I do. Every year, I notice that I develop a different rapport with the people in the room. That opens you up to a few more jokes and a few more conversations in a way where people understand the context of who you are in relation to them. It means you get to have a little fun without anybody feeling like you're dunking on them. Deseret News talked to Nate Bargatze. They asked him what's different about this new special. By the way, as I've been mentioning, that special is fantastic. You'll find it on Amazon. I had to deep dive a little bit. Amazon didn't put it right in front of me. I actually had to type in Nate's entire name for it to surface, but go find it. It's really good. Nate said, you're always kind of changing as a comic. Just because of the older you get. I'm very, very happy with this hour. I talk about growing up. I have a little bit in there about growing up Christian. It's talking about my family. This hour was very fun to tell, and I had a lot of fun telling it. People laughed a lot. I enjoyed touring this hour, but I'm excited to have it on tape. Amazon is doing a comedy push where they're going to do a lot more with stand-up, and to get to go and kind of be the face of that. It's a giant deal, and I'm excited to be at Amazon. All right, Nate, who's the most famous person you've ever made laugh? His answer, Tiger Woods. I don't think I got a laugh. I think I was bombarding him with too much where he didn't know to laugh. He also said Joe Walsh of the Eagles. He saw me perform, and then I performed at his 70th birthday party. And you know who else was in the crowd? Tom Hanks. So there you go. They laughed and enjoyed the show. So that was a big one. Ringo Starr was there as well, but I didn't see him laugh. Yahoo profiled Ellen DeGeneres. And they flash back to a New York Times article from 1994 when Ellen got her sitcom, and Ellen said, I was laughing out loud when I read the script. I knew what I could do with it. I wanted to do a smarter, hipper version of I Love Lucy, only don't take it so far that I'm in a man suit with a mustache trying to fool Ricky that I'm not his wife. I wanted to show that everybody could talk about the next day. During the height of Ellen's popularity, she came out in real life and on the show. ABC canceled the sitcom just a year later as ratings dipped. Palm Springs Life asked Taylor Tomlinson, hey, Taylor Tomlinson, what are the best and worst parts of being on tour? Taylor said, the best part, being in different places, getting to perform for different types of audiences, different crowds. I've been trying hard to be more present, spend more time in cities I go to as opposed to just flying in, doing the show and leaving. The worst part? Irregular sleep patterns. Travel is hard on your body, so it requires a lot of self-awareness and making sure you're taking care of yourself physically and mentally. Speaking of travel, I was recently down in Key West, and I recorded a lot for my travel podcast. Travel is back. I have to assemble that audio, and that takes a little more work than just riffing comedy stories here, so I'm hoping to start a new season of Travel is Back in March. But in the meantime, you can listen to back catalog episodes. Travel is Back wherever you get your shows. Then they asked her about workshopping material when you know you're not going to be recorded. record as opposed to, say, taping a special, Taylor said, "It's hard because people aren't supposed to record shows, but there's always a possibility. When I was younger, it wasn't so much of a thing." I love Taylor Tomlinson. What is she, like 26, saying when I was younger? Oh, she's 29 now. Yeah, I remember way back in the 2010s when people didn't have phones. What are you talking about? When I was younger, there wasn't so much of a thing. You just said whatever you wanted, and you were like, that's never going to leave the room. And also, nobody cares. I'm not a well-known comedian. But that's the responsibility that comes with being more successful. It looks hard to me to be a really famous comic and to work out material. I know people are very interested in it. Even if they don't record it, they might write it down, might put it online, then some jerk in his basement reads it to you third hand on his dumb podcast. Paraphrasing there. It's tough because to get to the good stuff, the best jokes, and the most vulnerable places, you do have to slog through those rough draft sets, and your rough drafts are in front of people. I was thinking about that when I was listening back to Thursday's podcast where I had the AI write the Andrew Santino style proctology bit. I want to move the Columbo part to the front of the setup. And the way I did it, I have at the end. I'm not actually a comedian. I'm not going to rework the bit, but I should have put the Columbo, just another thing at the top. Go back and listen to Thursday's episode if you know what I'm talking about. Taylor said, it's really special to feel like you're in a room of people where you're like, oh, this isn't going to happen again. Like if you have cool crowd work or something, you're like, oh, this was just for us. This was just for the collection of people at this time, this night. Specials feel more polished. They're like, okay, this is all the stuff that I want to live somewhere forever. It is the final day of San Francisco Sketchfest, 1 o'clock. Bruce McCullough and Kevin McDonald. 4 o'clock, John Hodgman. 7:30, Dumb People Town with the Sklar Brothers and Kyle Kinane. I would hit that one up. I'm a fan of all of those. Actually, everybody I've mentioned I'm a fan of. 8 o'clock, Riffapalooza, Bill Corbett, Kevin Murphy, and some others. You might know those guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000, at least one of the incarnations of that. And that's it for this year's Sketchfest. The New York Times reviewed Sam Morrison's show Sugar Daddy. In Sam Morrison's show, the grief comes out in laughs. The Times writes, in some cultures, keening over a casket promises cathartic release. I don't think I've ever seen the word keening. Keening, Keening, the act of wailing in grief for a dead person. You learn something new every day on Daily Comedy News. In some cultures, keening over a casket promises cathartic release. For the writer and performer Sam Morrison, a self-identified, anxious, asthmatic, gay, diabetic Jew, vocalizing his pain means barreling through punchlines at high speed, pumping the brakes every so often to split his heart open. That's Sugar Daddy, now running at the Soho Playhouse. He's 28. He calls himself an old queen by New York standards and admits that the recent death of his boyfriend of 3 years is all he can think about. Well, that one other thing, the joke, sad gay men are objectively the horniest people in the world. Sugar Daddy through February 17th at Soho Playhouse runs an hour and 5 minutes. The Guardian reviewed Vittorio Angelone. That show's called Translations. They called it an eye-catching stand-up debut from Vittorio Angelone. Although 3 stars out of 5, Vittorio is an Irish-Italian comic who was nominated for Best Newcomer at the Edinburgh Fringe. The Guardian says he does try a bit too hard to be all things to all people. It's a smooth and thoughtful hour of comedy riffing on the relationship between England and Ireland as experienced by an immigrant from Belfast to London. There's also material on his Italian immigrant family and some throwaway stuff about collectivism. This one from the Houston Chronicle. To the rest of the world, Texans are usually thought of as cowboy boot-wearing individuals who ride horses everywhere, listen to country music, and love to eat barbecue. But are those stereotypes actually true? Well, don't ask the chatbot. They won't let you make those jokes. Ara Holiday, Hollydday, is an 18-year-old comedian hailing from Texas and is proving that the jokes are not too far off the mark. He's on TikTok, giving glimpses into his daily life as a native Texan. Like any typical Texan, Holiday rolls out of bed with his cowboy boots and a 10-gallon hat already on, starts off his day by gargling with a shot of warm Lone Star beer out of a cowboy boot-shaped glass. He follows up by pledging allegiance not to the Texas flag, but to the state's favorite brands, H-E-B, Bluebell, Whataburger, and Buck E's. I'm not from Texas. I don't know what those are. What's Buck E's? Texans are like, you stupid Yankee. Buck E's is a chain of travel centers known for clean bathrooms. Love it. Once he's finished with those, he changes out of his PJs that include a Texas Longhorn t-shirt and into his workwear, which is a pinstripe button-down with black leather cowboy boots and a black cowboy hat. At 9 a.m., I'm on my 18th glass of sweet tea. By the end of the day, I'll have consumed the Texan standard of 12 gallons of sweet tea. He then practices his yeehaws outdoors. After lunch, he looks out the window solemnly as he takes a few minutes to remember the Alamo. And he also completes his daily task of jacking up his pickup truck a few more inches. Holidays TikTok has been viewed more than 5.7 million times, 1.1 million likes. He also has over 11.4 thousand comments. Sounds like a funny bit. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow with a Grammy recap.
Hello, I am Mark Francis, host of a daily podcast about the British royal family called Palace Intrigue. Did you see what Meghan Markle did in her latest documentary? Or what Prince Harry said in his new book? Well, the kings and queens and princes and princesses are ready to explode. Andrew is ready to implode. Royal sources are jumping at the bit. The in-laws just can't stop. The UK tabloids are about to burst. Americans can't get enough. The kids can't get any cuter. The press can't get any uglier. And Wills and Kate? Well, they're just wonderful. Get your daily dose of gossip and news from the world's most royal family. Follow Palace Intrigue on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your shows.